2 bombs for lethal. 2 bombs for lethal. I'm calling it now.
I mean, I'm not going to hold you to that. Because I don't
See,
mean...
that's one! It's not
Oh, still the right. Is the second bomb going to hit?
No.
It's a shame.
But still.
It's still lethal. No, it's still... Wait, no, it's not lethal. Not yet, but...
Really close, yeah.
Wait. Oh, yeah, it's lethal 100% because they can hit. They can brawl. And then one of the goblin bombs dies and then they're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this didn't go to a draw, thankfully. Thankfully, but yeah, we were in trouble for a bit there. But yeah, this wasn't a draw, thankfully. Bomb, like just in case, just in case. But yeah, no. Thankfully, this wasn't a draw, and most unfortunately, Eminem is taking another game loss.
Yeah, that makes 3-0 here for Versio, and what a game! What a series!
Oh, they were 2-0 down already? Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that. Oh, that's unfortunate.
And that was it for this great series, and we had a lot of fun, Paradox. Even though, yeah, stuff happens, and it's a Warrior Mirror and everything.
Warrior Mirrors are always fun when you're not the one playing them.
Yeah, and it's not round 8 on Swiss when you're playing Warrior Mirrors for 8 rounds already. So it's been great casting with you, Paradox, and I think we have something from the analyst desks. They're waiting for. They've been looking at this game with scrutiny, but overall, this series, it was a 3-0, but still, it would take some time.
This round. Let's see. Oh, they weren't even the last ones to win. We still got the match between Aura Esports and also Lions.
Oh, well,
the guys in the analyst desk will tell us very soon who is 2-0 and who's to look out for as the rounds of the tournament go on. I don't know if we're about to pass over. So we're about to pass over to the analyst desk. And yeah, I'm going to echo Delta here. It's a pleasure to work with you all.
Thank you so much, Delta and Paradox, for that riveting gameplay casting between Project Versio and Eminem Gaming. Looks like the fresh meat's here to show us what that business is, because Project Versio ended up getting it done in a 3-0. Dollar Bills, we'll start with you. What was it that Project Versio did that brought them this victory?
Oh my gosh. First of all, can I just go ahead and congratulate both teams for the incredible patience they both showed in that mirror, that war mirror. In the first game, I think it was pretty straightforward. We've seen this happen quite a bit where one of the book mages has the book and one of the book mages fails to find it. And it just ripples throughout the game, right? The Twilight Drake is weak. Mountain Giant is slower. The creature pressure that's available, Astromancers are weaker. So that game was just perhaps a little bit more determined by just some misfortune on the part of Eminem. But then you get into that Warrior versus Hunter game. Actually, I want to throw it over to Cinder because you're making some great points about the spell ordering specifically in that Hunter versus Warrior game.
Right. Yeah. The thing that really jumped out at me was the fact that Versio very cognizantly held on to both their dire frenzies and their trackings, and what this did was this allowed them to have a late game against that very tough warrior deck, right? Because if you expend those cards early on, especially if you do the trackings ahead of Zul'jin, you end up milling cards out of your deck. And they played Zul'jin first, then had the trackings available later on if they ended up not actually needing them, but they were available later on if need be. And by judicious use of Unleash the Beast and creating those recurring threats with the Wyverns and the 5/5s, and then Zul'jin to create more, it allowed them to stock up those dire frenzies for when the deck starts to get really, really thin against the warrior. And then they started dropping in 8/8s, 11/11s, dumping them into the deck. And it's that patience, knowing that the warrior wasn't going to threaten the hunter, and specifically holding the dire frenzy and the trackings until that very late stage in the game to allow them to have repeated in-game threats that the warrior just was too much for the warrior to remove.
Yeah, and it's not like the warrior was about to concede, right? We saw some amazing plays from the M&M warrior between the. I know we talked about using the freezing trap against them. There was a Versio's Zul'jin played another freezing trap, which then M&M used to 3 or 4 for 1, depending on how you want to argue it. They destroyed a creature, bounced the creature back to their own hand, destroyed another creature, and then rushed. And so the secret was handled. The secret helped them, and they killed 3 creatures. It's not like they folded at any point.
Oh no.
Well, there was a lot of patience shown in all of the decks, all around. You especially highlighted that Hunter versus Warrior matchup where there was a lot of patience with the Hunter deck. And then, of course, the Warrior v. Warrior that we finished off this series with, which was patience all around. Do you think we're going to be seeing more of these decks that require that patient strategy as we move forward into a round 3 of Swiss later on today?
I mean, it's just a good deck. It's tough to argue with how. I mean, Warrior just seems like it always, even against itself, Warrior never totally out of plays. It never seems like it's totally out of options. I also know that a lot of players really enjoy the amount of decisions it forces you to make over the course of a game. It kind of gives you that feeling that you have the ability to outplay maybe your opponent, especially if you think that you are more comfortable in the matchup. That's sort of what I would think. What do you think, Cinder?
Warrior is just it has a diverse number of strategies available to it. It has the decks can be built with multiple win conditions. Either you're getting a big value out of the dragon package, or you're getting like these in-game scenarios with the bombs, which we saw highlighted in the last game that have all kind of ways of being played and being played against. So players tend to prefer decks that have decision making available to them, decks where they can try to get an edge because they can, think on their feet and come up with an alternate win condition. Aggressive decks, while very powerful and take a lot of intelligence to pilot, they can just run out of gas towards the end of the game and kind of leave you feeling helpless, right? But these decks with these diverse in-game scenarios available to them tend to get favored by competitive players. So I do think we're going to see a lot more Warrior and Shaman as the tournament goes forward.
And Necker, can we talk about milling bombs for just a second?
Yes, I was going to say, I've been patiently waiting to bring this up because one of those amazing mechanics that we saw was Toast Monster just milling bombs right out of the deck. We got to talk about that for just a brief moment.
Because I remember one of the first things I learned about the is that they count as 5-mana spells. And so I remember the Storm Chaser, little guy that summons that pulls a spell from your deck. That can draw bombs.
Yes, it can.
So that's a fun mechanic with bombs. But also, apparently, if you find yourself in the situation against a bomb warrior, you can just hold 10 cards. If you're happy with your hand, or you have ways to replace them, then the bombs don't work. And that was so cool to see.
Yeah, because in M&M, wisely saw that we have Baleful Banker, we have Archivist Elysiana, plus some good stuff in our hands, so we don't have to draw any more cards. We can just hang out and wait for these bombs to resolve and not take any more damage. Didn't work out in their favor in the long run, but it was a clever way to get around Eversio's in-game strategy of waiting until the deck gets really thin and then just trying to dump as many bombs in as you can, which is usually how Warrior wins that game, right? They wait until the deck's thin but not too thin where they can just Elysiana and erase the bombs. So it ended up working out in Eversio's favor in that instance, though.
A delicate balance that needs to be struck and a lot of patience that needs to be shown. But we have 8 teams so far that have been able to show just that. We've got ATK Mode, Team Vertex, MCon Esports, Oslo Lions, Gamer Origins, 7 Force Club, Nordavent, and ENTS that are all sitting 2-0 after the second round of Swiss has concluded. But we've got a third one. So give us a little bit of a short break to get those brackets ready to go. And then we'll be back with our third and final Swiss round of tonight. Welcome back, everybody, to the EU House Rivalries. We have already gotten through 2 Swiss rounds today, and we're on to a third. But this time, it's going to be between Helsinki Reds, who is a veteran from the first season of EU House Rivalries, versus another fresh meat team for the win esports. So this is going to be a really close matchup, and we've got some exciting bands. So we might see some even... We're actually going to see Rogue, hopefully, for the first time. But to talk to us a little bit more about that, we've got Paradox and Delta back on the analyst desk. And Paradox, what can you tell me about Helsinki Reds?
I can tell you about the roster. It needs no introduction. Like, we got Vardu, Zump, and Yanetsky. Anyone who's watched the DreamHack streams from previous years knows exactly how good these players are. They're all very, very competent. It's going to be a hard match for the Win Esports to win on skill. Mm-hmm. In terms of the individual lineups, well, that's going to be a bit of a different story altogether. There's going to be one defining point in this series, and that's whether or not the Warrior from Helsinki Reds is going to be able to take a win. For the Win Esports, like our friends from round 1, have also decided to hate on Warrior a lot. The Hunter, unlike the mid-range Hunter we saw last time, is playing a lot of hate. We've got Mechanical Whelps, Cam Bloodhoof, Oblivitron, Zul'jin, The Undertaker. It's very, very tight against Warrior. We have the Rogue, like full-on like Miracle style Rogue with like the Wanted, Barista Lynchin, etc. We have the Mage, similar to what we saw last round, like the big Mage with Conjurer's Cooling. The Mecha Foon Warrior, which was banned by Helsinki Reds. So we won't be seeing any Warrior mirrors this series, fortunately for our viewers. Most part, it is just going to be revolved around when or if that Warrior can take the win. But again, it seems to be a bit of a common trend this evening. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think that Delta might be able to give a little bit more insight on what For the Win Esports is running, but it sounds like Paradox has already named a lot of problems that Helsinki Reds Warrior lineup might run into. Do you agree with that, Delta?
Yes, I agree pretty much with this, and it's been a common occurrence through all the lineups here. Is there's either you bring like a standard control warrior and aim to beat a certain amount of decks, or you bring like a warrior hate lineup where you bring like good decks that beats the warrior, or at least has a decent win rate against warriors. So you can just isolate that deck in the Conquest format, because in Conquest you need to win with all the decks except the one you're banned.
True.
So it's a good strategy if you can find 3 good decks that consistently beats one deck that is really popular. You could declare. So yeah, from just watching it, just seeing the difference, for instance, seeing just difference in the mage decks. Like Helsinki Red's mage is more catered towards beating the early game. He has Dragonborn Scorcher, he has a Doomsayer, Sunfury Protectors, and everything like that. While For the Win Esports is running like the greediest mage I've ever seen. Like you have Caligos, you have Ysera, you have Alexstrasza, you have Hexlord Malakras, you have 2 Crowd Rosers and 2 Astromancer, and to top it all off, you have a Cairn Bloodhoof as well. Just saying, but basically like we will have 90% plus chance to win versus Warrior, and you can't beat us. But we instantly lose versus Rogue, so that's why we ban it. Perfectly good plan there by For the Win Esports, and I think this one is going down to the books that For the Win Esports will take this with the Warrior standing on Helsinki Reds defeated.
All right, well, you spelled out your predictions, Delta. What about you, Paradox? Spell it out for us, loud and clear. Who takes this one, and in how many turns?
One of the members on For the Win Esports happens to only up. Yeah, he likes to mention that a lot. So I'm pretty sure he's going to take the rest of his team. They're going to go on a nice journey across the Atlantic Ocean, and they're going to go get some drinks in Vegas. They're going to beat Helsinki Reds on the way. I mean, Finland is a pretty cold country, so they're probably not going to get too far.
Well, it sounds like we might see another new team beat a veteran in this series. But to show us exactly what's going to happen, we're going to bring it back over to Cinder Ascendant and Dollar Bills for this final match of the day.
Thanks so much, Necra, and it is always a ton of fun listening to Paradox and Delta do the analysis. But we're back. Dollar Bills and I are going to be bringing you this final matchup for the day. And Bills, I gotta say, man, this lineup from FTW is some kind of spicy, man.
Oh yeah, and they were talking. The analysts already laid this out. This warrior from Helsinki Reds, I am so worried. There's just this. It's gonna have to figure out some way to find a win against some of the most. This is probably gonna be the most uphill we've ever seen a warrior have to fight.
Right.
We see, and actually, the warrior the band was a Mechathune combo warrior, which you and I actually got to cast earlier in the day. Designed to beat Control Warrior, just to give you a sense of how committed For the Win is to beating Warrior.
Oh yeah, and I mean the Death Rattle Hunter is just like the Death Rattle Mech Hunter now. The new Death Rattle Hunter is just so bad against Control Warrior because something we talked about earlier is just like Warrior has a ton of problems with recurring minions that you just can't clear without them coming back, and the new Hunter is just loaded with them, and really as is the Summoner Mage. Just you kill one giant and they play another giant and duplicate it a bunch of times, and then now where are you? And they're running Hex Malacras. What's his name? Hex something
Lord Malacras.
Lord Malacras. Man, like you want to talk about just duplicating effects and getting maximum value? Holy smokes.
Yeah, Delta was talking about just how greedy that mage is. And we actually see it roll if I was going to say that there was like a theme of the day, it's that warriors struggle with recurring and recursive minion threats. We actually see the Undertaker in this Hunter deck,
right?
Just to really emphasize how much they would like to beat Warrior.
Exactly, and none of the death rattles are tiny, right? You like the smallest effect of them all is probably the Ursatron that draws a card. I mean, after that you've got Cairn, you've got the Mechanical Whelp, you've got the Oblivitron to activate more death rattles. So like this is a very value heavy Hunter deck. And they're going to try and leverage it.
And definitely don't sleep on the double copy of 9 lives.
Right.
Every time Warrior is going to be like, okay, I've made it through an Oblivitron, I've made it through both Mechanical Whelps and everything. And then 9 lives not only summons a 7/7 Mechanical Dragon, but also puts that card into your hand. And so now the Warrior has it in their head. Like, we have to deal with 2 7/7 Mechanical Dragons over the course of the next couple of turns.
And we're going to see that Hunter right away, although not against the Warrior. We're going to see it in a Hunter mirror match. But this Hunter, the Hunter for Helsinki is fairly standard, I feel like. Bills, would you agree with that?
Yeah, this is very similar, dare I say, card for card, the Hunter that we've been seeing throughout our tenure here, Cinder. We definitely see the Zul'jin at the top, Unleash the Beast, a single copy of Tundra Rhino. Actually, they're only playing 1 die. Surprising.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you really only need the 1, honestly. I think 2 is always good for consistency, but if you're trying to just get to a late game scenario where you can duplicate some big minions, and then draw them out with either Master's Call or tracking, I don't think you need 2. 2 certainly helps, but I think it becomes a hindrance in matchups that aren't Control Warrior, right?
Right. We've seen the ability of, especially Zul'jin, just allows you to get a bunch of extra value off your spells, and since Dire Frenzy is probably going to be loaded into your Zul'jin before you cast it, that's already 2 Dire Frenzy there. That's probably all you need.
And this Hunter mirror, though, and it's not even a mirror, right? This is a very aggressive, they call it mid-range Hunter, but it is kind of almost a combo deck in some respects because it's trying to to make big hyenas and go face, and then make bigger minions with Dire Frenzy and Zul'jin, etc., and go more face. And this Death Rattle Hunter is very passive in the early turns, so this is going to be a little bit lopsided, I think, in favor of the mid-range Hunter.
Yeah, I agree. This we're going to see the For the Win esports is going to have to deficit spend some of their cards just in an attempt to maintain a semblance of board parity moving into the mid game. If they can start landing stuff like if they can activate their Oblivitrons, if they can get a couple of good 9 lives off, basically if they play the long game, they are favored in the long game. But this mid-range Hunter is coming out of the gates and it's swinging.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea of how aggressively the mid-range hunter is going to be, pursuing face damage, they just played Unleash the Hounds for 1 dog to trade away. Like,
that's so you know what? 3 mana kill their spider bomb is good enough. We're not seeing any kind of shyness of playing the tracking in this matchup. This is a
Right.
tracking. To try to find more gas scavenging hyena has got to be tempting at this point.
Unleash the Beast though is also really tempting. You just cleared a spider bomb, so their ability to clear middle range minions is not as good.
That's true.
They're just gonna Master's Call and forfeit the board here, and try to build a better board next turn.
And we see one of those cards that is just a reason you want to try to keep all the mech death rattles off the. Is this Fireworks tech that just came into hand for FTW? The Fireworks tech, in combination with so many of these mech cards, it's where those big swings can come in. You play your Whelp, your Fireworks tech. Actually, Fireworks tech on this Ursatron is one of the lower impact things you can do, but it still draws you a card and it gives you some board presence and it buffs up this Ursatron.
Yeah, I think they might actually even go for a play like that, because waiting until like turn 8 when you can reliably play Whelp into Fireworks tech is just too slow. You're just gonna die to stuff out of the Hunter deck. So I think they need to get on. They've basically been given initiative here by Helsinki. So I think FTW needs to just capitalize on that and seize the board. And Fireworks tech is a play, but Ziliax is really tempting here.
Yeah, I'm also interested in this marked shot. You saw a very low tempo. Wow, we're actually just going to see tempo for just a 5 mana 5/4, just for maximum stats on the board at all costs.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, because this mid-range hunter does tend to go both a little bit wide and a little bit tall. It can do either one. So just having enough trade material on board to handle potentially 2 threats next turn is reasonable, and they're not gonna get any value out of Harrison, so this is fine. Man, is it always Huffer? Or
it's always Huffer.
I think we've seen Misha once today. We have not seen any Leox, and we have seen repeated Huffers throughout the day on that card.
Huffer's excited about House Rivalries. I can't blame him.
Oh yeah, I'm all on board, man. Like let's go. So now, with putting down that trade material with Harrison Jones, has allowed FCW to maintain board presence and land this Whelp unchallenged. So now that Fireworks deck's actually going to be part of the plan next turn. However, they're down at 10 life.
Yeah, and we see in the hand, we see a Tundra Rhino. So next turn, Tundra Rhino, Scavenging Hyena is a play. And there has to be a taunt. Okay, here comes the Ziliax. Magnetized.
Now that's why they held the Ziliax, is right there. 10 healing off the hand. Ooh. That is a big play.
Yeah.
That's the mark of a team that has practiced this deck.
Oh my gosh, they're
give it up.
FTW's gonna give it up and walk away. Hey, that was
gracious.
That was a back-breaking play. I'm actually looking through the list right now to see if that was. I guess they had to top deck their Deadly Shot, and they had to really roll it, because I'm looking at their deck list, and that was going to be a tough spot to get out of.
Yeah, I think they just drew the top card, saw that it wasn't Deadly Shot, and gave it up, because once they start trading into that 10-9 Ziliax, game's just over at that point. There's no coming back from that, because they'd have to trade through that repeatedly, and all the while healing FTW back up to 30. So one game in the books for FTW. They're going to queue up the Rogue versus the Hunter, and I do feel like the Rogue has an edge in this matchup, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, we see this Rogue deck is chances are a deck you've seen if you've played the ladder for the past week. Just a super high tempo Rogue, and it's able to do a lot of stuff. Not necessarily on turn 1 and 2, but like turn 3. Are they on the coin? They are. So actually, even a little bit faster. But all of a sudden, turn 3, turn 4 comes around. I know before cast, how like prep raiding party evil miscreant on turn 3 could just be devastating into a turn 4 waggle pick. But actually, and I'm going to go ahead and steal your point, you need the raiding party to really make this deck sing.
Right, this is not a raiding party deck. This is something else, kind of a blend between like Miracle Rogue and like Burgle Rogue, because it's using Blink Fox to and the Cable Rat to a lesser extent to leverage stuff like the Evil Miscreant, which is a very strong card. A lot of cheap stuff to power up the Questing Adventurers. We got 2 of, and remember the days of Miracle Rogue with Questing Adventurer? It's kind of back.
Yeah, I just realized I was looking at the wrong rogue deck. That's on me. I'm sorry.
There you go. and then on top of that, they have Barista Lynchen, which I love this card. This is probably my favorite card out of the new set. There's so many ways to utilize it. It's a difficult card to use because it's a little bit slow, but it can generate so much value depending on your deck builds. So I'm super excited to see them leverage this, because they can go Togwaggle into Lynchen and get like a second Togwaggle and just go bananas.
Yeah, and there's even earlier on stuff that you can hit with that Barista. You know, Evil Miscreant, such a good card.
Yeah.
That having 3 or 4 or 5 copies of it in your deck is something that I would probably be happy to do.
Oh, without a doubt. But like, if you just look at the deck lists and how many of the things have battle cries in that deck, you know, you're talking about the Cable Rat, the Blink Fox, Van Cleef is a battle cry minion, if I'm not mistaken, or is he a combo card? I think he's a battle cry card.
He counts as the combo card.
He's a combo card. Okay,
yeah.
So you have the Miscreant, the Burglar, like all of these things. They Togwaggle himself, like all battle cries, and then the lackeys themselves are mostly battle cries.
Wow,
So,
and he actually got a Nether Soul Buster, which is also a battle cry. This is kind of funny off that evolve effect.
So there's just a ton of stuff that Lynchen can create, and this rogue deck tends to play on the forward foot, and we can see that now. Like, they're way ahead on board already on this turn 4 on this Hunter deck. So it's but Lynchen is not the story of this specific game, though. They're just ahead on board, period.
Yeah, and this Hunter has kind of missed all of its, it couldn't find Spring Pock. It has a Headhunter's Hatchet, but it didn't have like that crucial like turn 1 beast to combo with it.
Yeah.
And so now we're in this position where you're playing from behind as the Hunter, and your catch-up mechanics are, you like Unleash the Hounds combos. We're actually going to go ahead and see a Headhunter's Hatchet, Dire Wolf, just to activate the Headhunter's Hatchet.
Yeah, this is rough. Like, when this Hunter misses its 1-drop, it's so difficult to come back if that leads you to be on the back foot. And the Hunter never wants to be playing defense. It can, like, it has some tools to come back from a bad board position, but this is a tough one right here. Look at all these cards flying out of the hand. For SCW, and this is going to be what, a 10-10, 12-12 Van Cleef?
Oh, it's going to be. I've lost track of how many
tremendous.
cards. At least 10-10.
Yeah,
12-12. Oh. And playing around that Deadly Shot, went ahead and loaded up a 4. There's only a 1 in 4 for this Deadly Shot as everything stands on the board right now. But he loaded up so much health that this Hunter is going to have to spend some of its precious 22 life just to increase the chances of Deadly Shot saving it.
Right. Yeah. So it's got, and I don't think are they going to do it? They're reserving 3 mana. Yeah, they're going to do it. They're going to go ahead and use the Spring Paw here, and just using the Hyena as a supplemental threat. And they did it. They got the ABC on a 1 in 3. My goodness.
Okay. Well, all of a sudden, so obviously the Rogue is capable of very explosive turns. The Rogue committed a bunch of cards into that Van Cleef and lost it for 3 mana. But obviously Ziliax is going to clean this up very cleanly. But it's a little awkward in that you want to hold back a lackey so you can combo it with Togwaggle %. Mm-hmm. So maybe you do an attack. I'm trying to figure out what this last 1 mana does, and I'm thinking it's going to be an evolve.
Yeah, I like the evolve. Like the 1/5s are middling. They're not producing a lot of threat. So I'd imagine.
Oh, they're gonna evolve.
They're gonna hit on the Ziliax. Well, I mean, 6 mana is a pretty high impact mana cost as far as minions go. So I don't hate that at all. There's a lot of really good minions in the 6 slot, and the 3/2 is a little less than than impressive. But yeah, Scalehide getting getting the Dire Frenzy going to heal up quite a bit of damage here for Helsinki, trying to dig themselves out of the hole.
Yeah, these Dire Frenzy, so that's their only copy of Dire Frenzy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I believe you're right.
So now they, if they are able to find their other Master's Call, for example, that just represents a ton of peeling over time.
Right.
And extra, yeah.
Do you think they go for the? You think they go for the Togwaggle now? Yeah. Well, here they go.
I'm gonna go ahead and guess yes.
Yes. There's so many good ones. They got the wand. Wondrous Wand is got to be one of the best ones to get. Draw 3 cards. They all cost 0, and that is, you know, do you think Rogue likes discounted cards at all, Bills?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say a hard yes. If there's anything that Rogue likes to do, it's go ahead and prep 3 cards. Doesn't matter if they are creatures or spells, and it's not a prep. It's a super prep.
And the top deck for Helsinki here was very welcome. They picked up their the first of the 3 duplicate Vicious Scale Hides and got the healing. But here comes the wand. Well, the Shadow Step was a bit of a backstabbing Shadow Step. Neither of those get any benefit from the wand, but they drew the Auctioneer for 0 mana, and that makes up for everything.
Yeah, we're gonna see these two, both the Shadow Step and the Backstab, just used to both power up this questing adventure at the top of the game, but also just cycle through that deck Miracle Style. It's time to find some more gas. They wouldn't mind to draw. I mean, honestly, they probably wouldn't even mind to draw like a Shiv or something, because they still have enough mana to play it.
And just after Helsinki managed to
oh my god,
wow,
what is happening?
Second Scale Hide off the top. You know, they managed to get some very good rolls off off of some effects and managed to come back from a deficit. But you know, a second huge board from FTW, and then that gets answered by another friendly top deck.
And now I'm actually a little nervous for FTW, because, you know, like the Heist Baron Togwaggle is one of like the big threatening things. Edwin Van Cleef is one of the big threatening things. Questing Adventurer is one of the big threatening things. And I'm looking through what's left for big threatening things for the win. What's left since they decided not to use their Togwaggle scheme. So they're not gonna be able to do like unlimited Togwaggle, for example. They're not running Leroy Jenkins. Oh no, they are running Leroy Jenkins.
Well,
okay,
yeah,
so they still have
right
the ability.
there.
Yeah, they can still Togwaggle scheme Leroy for a bunch of damage at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a very winnable game here for FTW, I think. But you know, Helsinki's just getting a lot of help off the deck, but they're running out of gas. They're down to 3 cars, and FTW's at 30 health. I mean, they're feeling really quite safe here. And Rampage coming off of the Discover there, lending itself to a damaged minion, and bam, just like that, sees the board once again. Necromechanic for a 3/6.
Yeah, just high tempo plays throughout the course of this, just at any cost. Basically, tempo at any cost.
Mm-hmm. So this is probably going to be the last big hurrah here for the Hunter deck. Use the Tundra Rhino in combination with all of the stuff that's in hand. But if this does not survive the following turns worth of trades, then Helsinki's just gassed out.
Yeah, and actually I'm looking at these trades, and it's kind of awkward. I don't really see a good way to get rid of this Necro mechanic.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it'll get... Yeah,
it's
the Heine
barely out of range.
Yeah, like... Oof, good spot there from Helsinki. There's Lynchen, actually. And all the Battle Cry minions have been expended.
Yeah, Leroy's Battle Cry is not one.
No, you don't. Well, you don't. It's not a question of repeating it. It's the fact that you get a second Leroy.
Yeah, that's right. Because that's a way. Actually, we're just going to see a tempo.
Which is interesting, because like, I feel like the one avenue left that FTW has to secure this game is to duplicate or to be able to replay Leroy's. So I'm kind of surprised that they didn't hold the Lynchen for next turn, where they could go. Because look, now they've got both Shadow Steps.
Wait, how much damage is this? So if they Shadow Step, if they Leroy Shadow Step,
That's
It's 16. And then the dagger's 17.
yeah, and then they'll get Leroy Shadow Step again next turn.
Yeah.
Oh no, they're gonna lynch
they
to get
gonna
a second
step
copy.
into Lynch?
I
Oh,
love it.
That's
yes. So now the Leroy, now the Shadow Step doesn't return Leroy to the hand. The Lynchen creates another Leroy, and then the Shadow Step refreshed Lynchen. So, oh, but the Zul'jin
off the top.
Woo!
What's this gonna play? Unleash the Beast, Dire Frenzy, Master's Call, Deadly Shot. And I think that's
a
it.
lot of stuff.
Yeah. Does this count as a beast? No. So
No,
Dire Frenzy doesn't work. Oh, Dire Frenzy
Oh,
goes
and it went first. Oh, what a low roll. But this will allow them to clear the board, though. Get a little card draw off of the Master's Call as well. But yeah, the Wyverns stick, and that's representing almost lethal damage.
Yeah, there's 16 damage sitting on the board for Helsinki Reds.
No,
And
Lackey, they're gonna have to bounce this Cable Rat just to try to get some good lackeys.
yeah, at this, I guess they're probably looking for the find a spell guy. They're gonna scoop it up.
My goodness!
Wow.
What an
Back and
explosive game! There were so many positions there where it would be almost obvious who was going to win the game, but then things just keep bouncing back and forth. And all credit to Helsinki for salvaging what was almost a lost game after that Edwin Van Cleef hit the board at a 12-12.
Yeah, and it's you made the comment earlier. Helsinki was living off the top of their deck there because they had done everything they could to try to put pressure, and they did successfully get the Rogue to expend a bunch of resources early on. Right, we talked about the Heist Baron. And so the Rogue was kind of stuck with a bunch of situational kind of cards, right? Like double Shadow Step on its own doesn't really do anything. And they put themselves in a position to potentially win. Maybe they felt unfavored, or maybe they just know how to navigate that matchup. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean it's a tricky one. I mean the Rogue classically is, it'll either blow you out of the water or it just runs out of gas and does nothing. And it felt like a little bit of both in that game. But ultimately it ended up being the run out of gas and do nothing, even though they had Leroy Shadow Step in hand.
Oh my gosh, Cinder. Oh my gosh, Cinder.
What?
Oh my gosh, look at this opening hand.
Oh, this is the Malacras deck, right?
Unfortunately, no. I think
Oh.
Helsinki Reds is not playing Malacras. That's For the Win Esports is playing Malacras.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
But they're still going to get a Conjurer's Calling Book of Specters off their Malacras, which is not nothing.
Yeah, that's really, both of them have it. They both have this and Mountain Giants. Oh man.
Wow. So we're actually going to see what happens. Oh man, there's going to be lots of card drawing. We're going to see what happens when both mages have the start.
This is gonna be another explosive game bills. Here comes the turn 3 giant on turn 3, and the coin is so important here because it means that the mage that's on the coin is a turn ahead of the mage that's on the play. So now here comes 8 damage and the Conjurer's Call. The only thing that would make this worse, Bills, is if there was a Khadgar. Then you can coin Khadgar into the Conjurer's Calling and just completely take over the game.
Yeah, that one card off the Stone Cold Nuts is not bad, though. No, we're going to see. This 8 is trucking right downtown. Conjurer. And I guess, do you discard the coin? I guess, just to make sure you don't mill yourself?
Maybe?
I guess you could coin Fire Tree Witch Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, why not? I mean, you could get your third Conjurer's. They're gonna go and burn a card.
Okay, yeah, they've decided that the coin is more useful than whatever card they could potentially draw.
Yeah, and the trade plus the Voodoo Doll, though, means that the board's going to reset, and Helsinki's going to have a second shot at development here. Burning Scaleworm's not terrible, but 4/10 Twilight Drake's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, especially when you see, so one Voodoo Doll committed, one Mountain Giant committed, and FTW wasn't able to Conjurer's Calling their Mountain Giant, right? They had to spend an entire Mountain Giant unconjurer's called just to get the board back to parity. I don't know if were you and me talking about how the card art for Magic Drake is amazing.
I don't think we were on camera when we were, but the card art for Magic Trick is amazing.
It's amazing.
That is my favorite card art of all time.
Yeah. And actually, the golden version, he actually does the little optical illusion where he like pulls his thumb off.
That's great.
So fun.
So
fun.
yeah, I like the frostbolt here just to kind of stall the game slightly. Although I wouldn't have been surprised to see them actually hold it for another really big dude. But actually, so they kept the coin here, Bills, and I see this is obvious now because they wanted to play that turn 6 Astromancer.
Yeah, and just go ahead and pull down a Fell Lord Betrug.
Oh, that is an incredible roll here. It is going to get answered by the crowd roaster if FTW wants to answer it. But man, what a good roll off of the Astromancer.
Yeah, and since they have to commit this crowd roaster to deal with the Fell Lord, FTW is in the unenviable position of having 7 cost, and they know there's at least the twin spelled, like the second half of a Conjurer's Calling in the hand. And so we're going to see a value trade and a Conjurer's Calling. I wouldn't be surprised.
I would not have been sad about Line Breaker's interesting. Scaleworm's going to clear the board. I would not have been sad to see them ignore the Witch Doctor and just go face. You're in a superior position. You got limited removal. You're only going to win this game by virtue of sheer minion power. So the trade's a little surprising, but I think it's going to work out for them all the same. This is an incredibly difficult board for FTW to deal with.
Yeah, now we're seeing one of the side effects of FTW's extremely greedy build of Mage that they've opted for in their hand, choking their hand right now. We see Alex Straza, we see Sarah, and I'm sure there comes a point where it's like, we wouldn't mind if one of these taunt. Wouldn't mind having just a little bit of taunt to put.
Yeah, like maybe just a Grave Horror out of a Conjurer's Call or something. But nothing doing. Like Ziliax might be part of the play here, but the Scaleworms can do a little bit of work. But like even it's basically gonna be like 2 minions to remove the Twilight Drake.
Yeah, actually, that being the case, okay, we are going to see the Ziliax. I was wondering if there's ever a world where you just throw that Alex Straza on the board offensively.
Maybe on turn 9, but not on turn 8. They're only on turn 8. That's the thing. And they actually went for a halfway play. They just dropped the Ziliax to get a speck of healing, and then tried to Conjurer's Call and got a fairly weak roll. And now they're Helsinki just drew into Khadgar. Like this is going to be disastrous.
So this will be interesting. I assume Linecracker overkill. Oh yeah, they'll just attack. But so now the Linecracker now has 10 attack.
Mm-hmm.
I assume they're going to reserve a ping. Oh, right. This is just going to be a huge swing. Worgen Abomination. Wait a minute. That's a little bit problematic for Helsinki because it does damage to the Linecracker, but I think it still works out because it'll clear the War Mage that got generated. Oh yeah, that's right. And so that ping doesn't have to be committed. They went ahead and drew more cards now. This is like unrecoverable for FTW. Yeah, this is tough. And actually, they knew that they could freely play that Book of Specters because I don't think they have any spells left. They've got both Conjurer's Callings and they've got both Book of Specters. Yeah, and that's all this deck is running. The rest is creatures.
Fire Tree Witch Doctor. They were probably looking for a Blizzard or something, but nothing doing there, Bills. This is quite a lot of damage. This should be lethal. 22 on the board, I believe.
Yeah, 23 with the ping.
They can still Scaleworm into one of the Godfreys.
Oh,
they're gonna give it up. And all credit to both of these teams for having recognition of game state. Like, yes, I can stay alive, but is it really worth dragging it out for a 0.1% chance that I pull a rabbit out of a hat? But it's pretty late in Europe, and they just want to get this thing moving. So play the numbers and keep the action going.
Was there any value you think to Conjurer's Calling Helsinki Reds Khadgar to try to get a Doomsayer?
It's a pretty long odds, but it wouldn't well, maybe.
I mean, before you concede, at least see if you get the super
Yeah.
duper board clear.
Yeah,
But like
maybe
you said,
so.
it's been a long series for these teams, and I'm sure they're. I mean, like you said, it's like 0.001% chance.
Right. You got to realize in some parts of Europe it's 2 or 3 a.m. So it's it's been a long afternoon and evening for these folks. So they just want to play out these series as as efficiently as they can. And speaking of long series, here we go. It's Warrior time for Helsinki Reds playing up against this Miracle Rogue.
Interesting to bring the Miracle Rogue right now. I kind of expected them to stay on that mage if they knew the Warrior was coming next.
Yeah, I think you're right because I feel like the Warriors' best odds are probably against the Rogue.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I think Helsinki would probably want to have the. Well, what is this? It's been a long day for us too, Bills. What is the score right now?
The score, I believe, is 2-1 in favor of Helsinki Reds.
Yeah. So FTW could. So Helsinki. Let's see.
Yeah. So for the win, esports knew the Warrior.
Yeah. So this is the Warriors. Okay, I'm on board. So this is they had to queue the Warrior. So I would think that they would want to queue the Rogue last, right? Because the Mage is almost guaranteed to win, right? The Hunter should be, but I think the Hunter got its win already, so that one's in the bag. So yeah, like I really think the Mage would have been the next queue. I'm surprised by this.
Yeah, and maybe they're just thinking like it's been a long day. This Rogue has to win against this Warrior, and if this Rogue doesn't win, then we're going home anyway.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I don't disagree with that line at all. Like, if let's not drag it down any longer than it has to.
Yeah, I guess I just like make. I wonder. I feel like there might be some value in making Helsinki Reds play this Warrior just for an extended period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Just we're getting into sort of the outside the game stuff. Like, can you wear the players out, right? Like, can you maybe get into their heads? Can you make them misremember something? But
yeah, and we're seeing both of these teams play with much greater rapidity than we've seen in previous series. Like, both of these teams are playing pretty snappy, and not giving as much consideration to the plays as we've seen in previous series. But look at this, another 0-mana spell for a Miracle style Rogue. Like, but you don't care what it does. You just want to play it.
Yeah, and that's every time, because you look at this. For a while, I think it would be fair to say that Totemic might be the weakest card in the game, but it's a 0-mana spell for Rogue. It activates combos. It activates the Gadget Sand. It's so good. Even if it's 0 mana, do nothing. It's like a coin that's not quite as good, which is amazing in Rogue.
Right. It's actually 0 mana activate your combo abilities is what it says.
Yeah. And it activates the Vendetta. If I'm not mistaken, this deck is playing.
Yes, it also activates the Vendetta. And now we're getting into some interesting territory. Barista Lynchon has come into hand for FTW. So some of these big value Battlecry minions they have, like Togwaggle, possible opportunities for them to make extra copies to really put a lot of threat on the board against this Warrior.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how aggressively they play this Rogue against the Warrior. Just we see them taking consistently cheap spells that they can use to activate combos and there's no Gadget Sand on board yet, but at least activate combos. And I wonder if they're actually thinking about holding this secret plan just for the future abilities to do miracle-y kind of stuff.
Maybe so. Like it is again another cheap spell that will activate combo things and also activate the Gadget Sand Auctioneer.
And the Gadget Sand's in their hand, so they actually have the ability to, Gadget Sand, Secret Plan, Prep Secret, and draw a bunch of cards.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff to do on turn 6.
Yeah. Meanwhile, for this Warrior, Warrior's just sort of chugging along like, hey, I was thinking about...
It's like, I thought I might, gain a bunch of armor and clear your minions repeatedly. Hope you're okay with that.
Is that cool if I just keep on gaining armor and clearing your minions? Yeah.
And interestingly too, FTW no lackey generators yet, so they may actually want to just start drawing stuff to try to get to a point where they can play Togwaggle and also give this questing an opportunity to develop into something big. Because if they can stick this questing and then let it live and get to that miracle turn next turn with the auctioneer, that's gonna be a big boy.
Yeah, the break point I would assume they're looking for is 6 health. Or actually, I guess now at this point they need to get to 7 health because they saw Town Crier come down, so you always have to think about the possibility that Militia Commander is in the hand. Deals 5 attack. So you either need a trap that will prevent the Militia Commander from attacking your questing adventurer somehow, or you have to get it to enough health to where the Militia Commander doesn't kill the questing. They couldn't get there, so they load up a secret.
I don't know that Rat Trap's ever going to trigger against this warrior deck. Like, it is very, very rare that the warrior plays more than 1 or 2 cards a turn.
Yeah, so now they've checked for snipe. Now they're going to check for freezing trap. Now they've got it narrowed down to... Yeah, they're narrowed down to, what, Rat Trap, Misdirection, and Explosives.
Yeah, things that trigger on face and Rat Trap.
And to your point, that Rat Trap's not coming down until probably we see a... Oh, actually, this deck doesn't play Omega Assembly, or does it? I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong warrior again. That's the second time I've done that this cast. This one does play 2 copies of Omega Assembly.
Gotcha. And, and also, I think the fact that they just drew into Edwin Van Cleef this turn, it's probably going to direct FTW to playing this even more slowly than they have been. Like, as long as the warrior is content to just sit back and gain armor, they can build this incredible miracle turn basically at will. And it's going to be, ooh, look at that Vendetta. So, yeah, this whenever they decide to pull the trigger on this thing, it's going to be just out of this world.
There's going to be some fireworks.
Right.
They're going to be able to... Yeah, Gadget Sand. So just in terms of raw card draws off Gadget Sand, they can Gadget Sand and then coin, preparation, some spell that maybe they've drawn, or they can hold. Actually, they'll hold the play like Hemic Might, right? They'll play. Potentially, they'll be able to Vendetta something. I mean, they're going to be able to draw so many cards and make the biggest Van Cleef you've ever seen in your life. And
probably dump a bunch of copies in as well off of Togwaggle's scheme, right? Like,
yeah,
how many Van Cleefs can you get out of this miracle turn? So, like, however big that Edwin Van Cleef gets, it's probably going to be answered by Helsinki's hand. But then, what about these 7 or 8 other copies of Edwin Van Cleef that FTW dumps into the deck?
Yeah, Dynomatic doesn't say deal unlimited damage. Only 5. Although 5 is perfect right now.
Right. Talk about the best top decks ever. Like, Dynomatic into a 5 mana or 5 health minion is pretty high up there.
Here we go.
Second prep. Oh man, this is going to be crazy. What? Just do not blink, folks. This one's going to be nuts.
We see the 0 mana Vendetta coming down. Draws a card, kills the Dynomatic, draws into a Blink Fox.
More
another
Vendetta.
What we got there? Shiv. Preparation Shiv.
Prep Shiv, yeah.
Wait, is he going to overdraw if he does that? I don't think he actually can prep Shiv. He will... Yeah, because he'll draw 2 cards off Shiv.
Yeah, but he'll have expended one, so he'll be at 10.
Oh, he'll be at 10. You're right. He'll be at exactly 10.
So and then as long as he reserves 1 mana to plant this Van Cleef and then get the scheme, is going to be, I think, 7 Van Cleefs are about to go into the... Oh, he didn't play it.
He's actually, I guess he's holding that scheme for the Heist Baron.
Yeah, maybe he's going to hold it for... See, because I was expecting that to hit Van Cleef, but he's going to save it for the Togwaggle.
Yeah. So now...
Or the Leroy.
Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. There's a combo here. I know I've been talking about this combo a lot, but you can shuffle Leroy's into deck, and then you can Togwaggle the wand and play 3. You can play 5 Leroy's in a turn. It's fun.
It's right if they get the wand. Oh, that's nutty.
Oof. So Shield Slam for 24, pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was kind of expected. They knew it was going to get handled no matter what, which is kind of why I was expecting the EVC to be a high priority target for the scheme, just because they knew it was going to get. Oh, the Rat Trap actually activates for once.
Wow!
And then they get to clear it because they had the Super Collider. What a heads up play from Helsinki. I think they actually knew it was Rat Trap and went ahead and triggered it.
Yeah,
so they get a full clear.
That is one of the things that's actually been just a treat this afternoon and evening, is we've seen just some of the coolest warrior plays that I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, man. I consider myself a warrior main. I have not played enough to be on this level. Like there have been some real trick plays for these warrior players from multiple teams. It's been you're right. It's been a pleasure.
And so here we see, this is probably the best class for Dr. Boom's scheme, in that at least it's a spell.
But right, poor Dr. Boom's scheme. Like it's just not good. But now FTW has multiple opportunities now that they've drawn through a chunk of their deck. Have lackeys available. So Togwaggle is gonna be entering the picture here pretty soon. All that has to happen is they have to have a lackey available to play. And they've got plenty of opportunities for that.
It's funny, their hand size is so healthy, they actually can't play Evil Miscreant because it won't generate maximum lackeys.
Right, one of them would get burned.
And they actually still have 10 cards. They have to play. They're actually just gonna discard Dr. Boom's scheme.
Yes, air quotes discard, in that they got a point of armor off of it.
Right. 4 mana, 1 armor.
Well, I mean, and they're holding for like this big turn coming up, so they don't, they want to make sure they have all, everything in hand that they want. So they if they're floating 4 mana, you may as well just get rid of this card.
Oh, for sure. We actually have an interesting situation for the rogue, where the rogue has to deal 50 damage at some point in this game, at least.
Yeah. So, and I think that's why Leroy's scheme is going to be high on the list of shenanigans for FTW here.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a way. No, I guess there's never. You would have to figure out a way to stick Heist Baron Togwaggle for a turn to barista the Togwaggle and lackey back into your hand.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. But on the other hand, if they can get the wand, the Wondrous Wand off of Togwaggle, they can get and possibly get a 0 mana Leroy. They can barista the 0 mana Leroys and get copies of all of those. And there's just so many things they could do here with that scheme and with Lynchon.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But if you play 4 or 5 Leroys in a turn and then you barista them all back into your hand, you could do that, because you could play a 5 mana Leroy, 3 0 mana Leroys, barista for 5 mana, and then you have 4 Leroys.
And then however many are still in the deck.
Right. Plus the draws just a lot of Leroys. We're gonna see Darius buff.
Faithful Lumai, man, the little guy is finally earning his pay in this matchup. Getting that 1/1 buff is pretty important for the Eternium Rover and its survivability, and so that's not unwelcome of a pick for the random mech.
And it's interesting how, and I wonder if this is intentional, almost never leaves a full health minion on the board, and it's just really stranding this last backstab in the hand of for the Win Esports. It's also just, that's just good for the trades, how everything happened to go, but it's just, that's another card that is kind of gumming up the works here to really go, because they have their other auctioneer, right? They wouldn't mind having a big auctioneer turn. They just don't. Their hand is starting to get a little uncomfortable.
Well, if the plan is to do scheme Leroy, then I think they want to hold. They want to hold the auctioneer to be able to draw into them all. But now they're playing Leroy raw here, and I think they may be going. This might be a Lynchon play.
Yeah, either a Lynchon or a scheme. It seems way too early to scheme. They're not going to Lynchon. They're trading off Leroy.
And the Leroy's gone. All right. Okay. So all of my wild theories on Leroy are now gone. But
but we can still do a similar thing with Togwaggles. Our Heist Baron Togwaggle can still be shuffled in.
True.
And you can still draw a bunch of 0 mana.
And that might that might be the strategy. Just get like near infinite tog waggles to get all the treasures over and over.
Yeah, and so it's really just, can they hang on to a couple lackey? Because you always want to make sure that your highest Baron tog waggle does not generate lackeys on his own.
Right.
So you always have to make sure that you have. And once you can do 4 tog waggles in a turn, but then every tog waggle after that is much more difficult to activate if you don't plan ahead.
Ooh, sprints, interesting. Walk the plank though is going to come out for the destruction. Okay, so tog waggle's going to give us. There's the wand. Do they go for that or something else? They go for, what is this? This is
Zarog's Crown.
Zarog's Crown. Discover a legendary minion. Summon 2 copies of it.
Okay, and they're going to shadow step waggle.
Yeah, now they're going to start duplicating the tog waggle effect.
And we're just going to go ahead and see Zarog's Crown. What's in the crown? Couple of misses. I assume Geppetto.
There's no battle cry that comes out if they get summoned, so they're just going to go for the biggest stat block they can, which is 2 Geppettos, which is 12/12 in stats, which is not bad.
Yeah, 3 mana get a 12/12 is not. I was dismissive, but it's not like 3 mana 12/12 is bad.
No, but here's the thing, though. That is immediately answered by the Super Collider if they want to, but they're not gonna. Yeah, they're gonna do it that way. Make the 12/12 out of all these magnetics, and all of the sudden bills. FTW is in a ton of trouble.
So I'm not amazing at doing math, but 12 minus 12, that's 0.
I believe you're correct. So now FTW is really in a position. They did get to walk the plank, so that is going to answer this huge magnetic minion. Luckily, so they've bought themselves some time, but they're on the back foot now. They're not developing threats. They're at 12 health, and Helsinki's actually in a position where they can actually start developing threats of their own. There's some stuff in their hand, man. There's a Stegatron to make a 6/5 or 5/6. There's a nullifier, which could be really problematic for Rogue to deal with. Like, this is a bad position for FTW.
Yeah, I would not at all be surprised to see this hero power come down and just say, like, here's a bunch of stuff on a board. You have 12 health. We have a fistful of probably magnetic cards. Yeah, it's your turn.
One of them being the nullifier. Vanish. Come on.
Oh man.
I mean, and the first thought that went into my head when that lackey got played is, man, they really want Vanish here. And bam, there it is. That'll actually fill the hand and burn a card on the side of Helsinki if they utilize the Vanish.
Yeah. It would actually break the